What's up, everybody? KleverKrok back for the first round of the not the first round of the quarterfinals. Get it together. The first round of the tournament, aka the quarterfinals. And with me today, I have coach of the Charmillionaires, aka Bigdan, aka Daniel Helton.
What's going on?
Ring ring. All right. So the first match we're gonna look at is the match between the Crocodiles and the Felidae. So going into this match, I knew that I had a couple issues. I really wanted to bring Sylvie on, but at the same time, it just wasn't going to look good with having his Mega be Mega Houndoom and having Pyroar as another option and Toxicroak and Aegislash. It just resisted really well. So I knew that I needed to bring Talonflame, and I knew that he didn't have a ground immunity, so I could bring Zapdos and abuse Volt Switch. And then I was like, well, I just need to build around that. I finally was able to bring Scizor. Um, on his end, I really like his team for the most part. This is something that he really, like we've talked about before, he can't really help all that much. Is that like he doesn't have a lot of bulk on his team, and so he doesn't have like things that can switch in and take hits really. I really would have thought that Mega Houndoom would have been a good option here because he hits a lot of my team hard as opposed to Pyroar. And I guess he was bringing Pyroar as another immunity. But yeah, I would have thought that, Houndoom would have been a better option because, man, Houndoom, you'd be surprised. It can use Sucker Punch and actually hit pretty hard and still be a special attacker. So I just feel like in general it would have been the better option here. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and start playing it. So this was a very hacksy match too, as you'll see. I kind of figured he'd go for a trick here. Was not expecting the Toxic Orb, so that was a good play here. And the first hacksy thing that happens, one shot on a crit, which did matter, but regardless, that happens. So I just go for the revenge kill. And I knew that Toxicroak couldn't really do anything to Sableye, even if it's set up all the way. So if I were him at this point, I would have just gone for I would have just kept Swords Dancing because Knockoff isn't gonna do anything because I don't have an item. Gunk Shot doesn't do a ton, and I know he was going for a poison. That miss was unfortunate, but in general, he's just letting me set up here, which is really dangerous because he doesn't, like I said before, he doesn't really have an answer for this thing. Smeargle can't Spore it or Dark Void it. Just in general, he doesn't have like an option for it. He misses a lot of gunk shots, which really is unfortunate because he probably could have gotten that poison, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't have mattered. He probably shouldn't have gone for King's Shield here. He didn't really have a reason to protect first. And he may have not known that King's Shield doesn't protect from status conditions, but it does. So here, I just start slaying his team because he let me set up early. But in general, I'm not sure why he went for Rapid Spin. Maybe he misclicked or something. Yeah, he says he didn't pick that. So that was just an unfortunate thing. And then the second big Haxie move happens here. Yeah, he misses. And Snarl doesn't do a lot, but I ran that to nerf his attackers. And the crit takes out Sableye. So I was like, well, whatever. And so on and so forth. So what do you have to add to that, David? Or Dane? I can't speak tonight. Daniel.
Not much to add. Really, he just didn't have any answer for Mega Sableye, and once he let him set up, it was over. I do think Mega Houndoom would have been a much better option than Pyroar, but also I'm not sure why he switched into Toxicroak once you had already brought out Sableye, but there just really wasn't anything on his team he could have brought out that would have done too much more.
Yeah. Yeah, now that I think of it too, The Mega Houndoom can run a Nasty Plot as well, and between Nasty Plot and Dark Pulse, you can hit back hard and outpace my Calm Minds, and that would have forced me out into something like Chansey or to sack something off. But either way, that would have been a much better option to bring that rather than Pyroar, and it would have also been faster than most of my team. I mean, Pyroar kind of was also, but in general, that was just kind of what I noticed was that I really thought that Mega Houndoom was going to be in this match, and he probably should have been.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, Hexy match on both ends. Those two crits causing those two Pokemon to go
Yeah,
down. That was
those were big.
nuts. Yeah.
Those were big.
And then obviously the Gunk Shot misses 3 turns in a row was pretty bad too.
Yeah.
But either way, we'll go ahead and go on to the next match. So that means that the Krookodiles went on to the semifinals to face either the Charmillionaires or the Wobbuffets, and we'll watch that match here in a minute. But next we're going to watch the match between Fakemon United in the top, coached by Fiha, versus Zubatman, coached by Justified. Daniel, I'll let you chat about it first.
Well, this was a good match, both ways. It kind of sucks that David or Zubatman actually forfeited at the beginning, but because he brought two Pokemon with the same items. But that really actually made a big difference in the match too when you watch it, because with the Chesto Berry, I think Manaphy had a chance to sweep his whole team. But yeah, other than that, just Cloyster played really well.
Yeah.
Going for the 3 times on Shell Smash was a big move. Made a pretty big difference.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, made it to where he could take out the Heatran. Took out the Mega Venusaur, which he wouldn't have taken out without the 3 times. But both ways, I think it was a well played match. I wish I could have seen it without the double items. I wish I could have seen what would have happened.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that I can't remember at this time. Maybe I think bringing Bisharp might have been beneficial here, both because of Chandelure, and well, also Blissey. Actually, Bisharp matches up really well against his team, except for
Yeah,
the Aggron and the Volcanion. It destroys Chandelure. It crushes Blissey and Latias. And then the Cloyster, he can play mind games to pull off sucker punches and stuff too. And
right.
if it was just down to the sash, which I believe it was, that would have made a big difference. But
Yep.
I think that also Heatran probably should have ran Roar and should have just roared it out and got rid of it.
Yep.
But, oops.
Maybe with Stealth Rocks.
Yeah. But either way, as long as it gets pushed out, it's not going to outspeed the Manaphy. So it would have been, he still would have taken a lot of damage on the Heatran, but I think that he could have pulled it off with the team he had, even without Bisharp. But yeah, that not having the Chesto Berry really was kind of his downfall because it completely walled his momentum that he had, and he would have at least gone through 2 or 3 Pokemon before the Manaphy would go down.
Yep. And after the Clear Smog,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there wasn't much left he could do.
Clear Smog was a really good play and a really good option. Um, I'm still not a big fan of the Calm Mind set that he's been running on Chandelure.
Yeah.
Just because so many things that can outspeed it at Timid Nature that running Calm Mind, it can still get destroyed by things like, well, half of his team for that matter. And Yeah, he gets bulkier and can hit harder and still have, like, not choiced attacks, but I just still feel like Chandelure is better with, like, a Life Orb or a Choice Scarf or a Choice Specs rather than having to set up first.
Right.
But Clear Smog really worked, so props
And
to him.
that's not the first time he's ran that very successfully.
And the Imprison on me as well.
Right. Chandelure's been played very well.
I agree. I like seeing things out of the box because that's usually when you can tell that people have actually like put work into preparing as they think about what things they can do to catch their opponent off guard, and that's really one of the most invaluable things you can learn as a coach in this format. So
Yeah. Also, one last thing that David could have done, or Zubatman could have done, is if he would have brought in Intimidate Landorus before he brought in Mega Venusaur, I think he could have
yeah, it's
survived one
quite
turn,
possible.
because it barely got rid of him.
And then going for a Giga Drain or something
Yeah,
at least would have got rid of the Cloyster, yeah.
may not have made a difference in the match, but
I don't know, actually, it's quite possible that Manaphy still could have done something because Blissey and Latias weren't able to really touch it. I'm not. I think I know why he was running Latias the way it was, but I'm not a fan of only having Ice Beam on Latias and not even a stab move.
yeah,
Um, because Ice Beam is good for things like Landorus, but if it's not super effective, it's not going to do very much. So I imagine he was probably Roost, Defog, Ice Beam, and maybe something like, I don't know, Calm Mind or Healing Wish or something like that. But
yeah,
yeah, I don't think that running just Ice Beam, I feel like that limits Latios too much.
yeah. I agree. I agree with that. And it really wouldn't have done that much to his team just having Ice Beam, especially with him having Heatran.
Yeah.
Could have brought in at any time.
Yeah, Heatran was a pivotal for this match. It was important for pretty much every Pokemon on his team. It was his kind of his key to winning in a
Yeah.
sense. Um,
Once Cloyster got rid of him, it was pretty much over.
yeah, not having any priority or anything was again a huge difficulty to overcome.
Yeah.
But
The only way to get rid of a Cloyster is to either have rocks up so the Focus Sash doesn't work, or have priority.
red card.
Yeah, true.
Red card. Surprisingly, this is kind of off track, but I did not know that the Pokemon taking the hit with the red card has to live the hit in order for red card to work. So, fun fact.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about running it this next week, but we will talk about that next week. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next match, which is between the Charmillionaires and the Wobbuffets. So I guess I'll take it. Let's start here. So I'm looking at both sides, and I am not entirely sure why the Wobbuffets brought 3 Pokemon that are weak to Greninjas. Well, one of Greninja's stab attacks, 4 weak to Greninja's 2 stab attacks, but that's without Protean. So then you have extra sensory or some sort of psychic move, and then you have like Hidden Power Fire or something for, which might have been your set that you were running, but essentially Greninja hits everything on this team, and having 3 Pokemon that are weak to Hydro Pump or Surf is kind of dangerous. And I understand that it was the Victini was probably scarfed, but either way, I still think that was, and maybe he just didn't have anything better to really bring, but I think that ultimately is what kind of showed the match to be the way it was. So we'll go ahead and start it here. I also really liked the bulk up on the Granbull. That was really cool to see because he didn't expect that. And after +2, not having like, I'm pretty sure that Armaldo, that's the name. Armaldo probably had something that he could have like done other than just knock off, but I'm not sure why he went for Bolt Strike. Guess fearing the Quagsire to come in, but he should have just gone for the V-Create at that point. But either way, he just got in a really bad position really quick because he was not expecting the bulk up Grand Bull. And he was able to take it down, but at that point, Greninja was pretty much just able to destroy the rest of his team. That crit on Mew is actually pretty crazy. So, yeah, I mean, the rest of the match is pretty much just one after another, like, taking them out. And I'm pretty sure that, like, Greninja goes down from a Shadow Sneak from the Gorgeist, which was pretty cool. But at that point, like, it just did so much damage. There was no way to recover, and so I really think that the Grand Bull is what decided the match, even though Greninja came in and swept most of the team. So, props for the strategy to the Charmillionaires, but at the same time, I still feel like being able to get picked off that easily by one Pokemon, and granted, I know it's Greninja, and you all could rest easy knowing that Ubers will not be in the next season, but I recognize that Greninja has Protean and all that crazy stuff, and it can hit pretty much anything super hard, but still feel like there were probably like some better ways to go about it. But that's just me. What else do you have to add?
Um, that's that's about really it. The Grand Bull thing was pretty fun. It was the first time I'd used him with bulk up, and I don't know. I really just wanted to see what he could do with it. It worked out well that Victini was physical, because if he would have been a special attacker, I could have been in some trouble there. But yeah, other than that, I just had a lot of his weaknesses, I felt like, and Greninja
Mm-hmm.
pretty much gave me coverage for his whole team.
But really.
Yeah, with Dark Pulse, Extra Sensory, and Hydro Pump. I don't even remember what his other move was, but I don't even think it really mattered. I think that covered his whole team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that his maybe, and I honestly don't remember off the top of my head what Pokemon he had as an option. I'm gonna look that up real quick, just out of curiosity. So he brought those guys. He had Galvantula. Sticky Webs would have put in the work this match against Greninja, because then Victini would have outsped. Ambipom would have been good with that fake out. So he had some options, but I mean, he could have brought the Milotic as a specially bulky thing. It would have been pretty good actually,
Yeah,
because
against Greninja.
yeah, which you may have not like. I mean, you did. I don't think you brought Grass Knot on it,
I
so
think that was his other move. I think I did bring Grass Knot just in
okay.
case he brought Milotic.
Yeah, well then I guess it wouldn't have mattered all that much. And Choice Scarf Keldeo also puts in a lot of work, so he had some options. I'm surprised he hasn't used Keldeo more often, but either way, it was still a really good match, and it was just something that, where obviously, like, you can't really expect, bulk up Grand Bulls to just show up
Yeah,
out of the blue. So,
and but when I played him earlier in the season, he did a great job with Galvantula playing some mind games with me, um, with the sticky web,
oh yeah.
because I brought a Magic Bouncer and Zatu, and kept trying to switch him in. And I guess he was predicting it. Then finally got the sticky web off on me. Once sticky web's out, that changes the whole game.
Yeah.
So I mean, he had quite a few options. I was pretty scared of this match.
Yeah, so it was still a good match. It just it came down to one set and strategy really working well, and the other person obviously not expecting it. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and go on to the last match, which is the match between the Minnesota Mucks, coached by Lone Wolf, and he's the top. And we got the Richmond Rykos, coached by Jasperius, down at the bottom. So I really like the Thunders here. The only problem is that Absol has Magic Bounce. So I'm guessing, I can't remember, which we'll see here in a minute, but I feel like just running a Life Orb set with Prankster is a decent option, but regardless, pretty good setup, but Tangrowth really puts in the work in this match, just from the team view. Garchomp can hit pretty hard here, probably lives most hits. But either way, we'll go ahead and start it. And Daniel, what do you have to say about this match?
Mostly, I was mostly impressed with Tangrowth. I did not realize how bulky that thing was. With the Leech Seed, Giga Drain, leftovers. I mean, he just 8 hits. But I mean, it was a really good match to watch both ways. I was very impressed with how he ran Muck too. Other than that, I mean, it was just fun to watch. What's his name? Garchomp put in the work on Umbreon.
Yeah.
Took him almost all the way down at the beginning.
Abused the crap out of him.
Yeah, and then Foul Play, although it hit hard, getting hit with Rough Skin and the Rocky Helmet on top of that.
He probably didn't know it made contact.
Yeah, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah, I wasn't sure why. Maybe he was making a prediction, but I wasn't really sure why Raikou went for the Signal Beam when the Muck was in. Because I guess it's just like in my train of thought, generally I make, like in situations where I'm at the disadvantage, I play safe. Oh yeah, and then this Volt Switch and the high jump kick miss was a pretty big loss there.
For
the, for the Raikous, losing that momentum. I definitely think that the match would have been a bit different. However, I'm not sure if the match would have changed per se. But yeah, I really like Tangrowth. I really like the fact that it's so bulky on the physical side. And then it has Regenerator too, so even if you get it down to like 30, you can switch out and it's like almost back at full. Not having a grass type and being able to leech seed things puts a lot of pressure on them. But in general, I just like that it's like really offensive, but also like a tank. Like it puts a lot of pressure on the opponent, and it just puts in so much work against his team. And really losing that Blaziken the way it did, really kind of ensured that Tangrowth could like just eat up the rest of the team. So, Volcarona would have been used well in this match if it like had the opportunity, obviously. But yeah, usually when I am like in a point where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna lose another Pokemon here, like he's putting a lot of pressure on me, I usually try to play safe and go for harder hits that are like more certain rather than going for risky predictions. Right. Because when you're in that point, the risk is higher at making a prediction than it would be if you had momentum. Because even if you're at like, let's say, you are putting a lot of pressure on your opponent with whatever you're doing, maybe you have an offensive Pokemon out, it's better to go for a prediction then than it is when you're backed into a corner and you just need to get the pressure off you. So right. I think that was just kind of, what happened in the middle of the match, and then it fundamentally changed once Blaziken went down. But I would have gone for Flare Blitz instead of High Jump Kick, because that also would have taken out the Zebstrika. And I know the recoil damage is the thing, but he wasn't running Life Orb. So I would have just dealt with the recoil damage and still would have been able to at least crucially weaken whatever else would come in with a Flare Blitz, because nothing resisted it after that Garchomp went down. So I just feel like doing that and putting the pressure on it and letting it go down to recoil was your best option to crush whatever, advantage that they had. So,
Yeah, that definitely would have been the safer option.
yeah. But it was a really good match, and the Mucks really came through. They played really well and used that Tangrowth really well. The Muck did really well. The Garchomp really, he was the reason that Umbreon was able to be taken out the way it was by
Yeah,
the Tangrowth. Otherwise, it could have lasted a lot longer of a
yeah.
match. But
And that was a really good timing for the Dragon Tail as well to make it to where he pretty much died when he came out with the Stealth Rock.
yeah, that's a good point, actually. That was really because he could have just played that game of like whittling down the Garchomp and like wishing himself back up to health over
Right.
and over. So, yeah, it's
It was a
true.
good match.
Yeah, it was. So, good first round. I think all the matches were all really good, and they were really fun to watch. And you could tell that everybody really put their effort into preparing as well as playing. And it's just cool to see that everybody, despite what type of season they had, were able to come through and have a win against a team that would otherwise usually, like, honestly, I would call the match between the Zubatman and Fakemon, that was an upset by far, in my opinion. Not because the Fakemon weren't capable of winning, but because they weren't thought to be a one, and they are also a much lower seed and all that. And the Mucks weren't an upset, but they still beat the Raikos, who had a better season and were a higher seed and all that. Well, actually, they weren't a higher seed, so never mind. But regardless, I think that a lot of good matches happened this week. So
Yes, I agree with that. Um, yeah, I just felt like there's just been a lot of improvement since the beginning of the season.
oh yeah, I feel like this season is going to be very pivotal for a lot of coaches and a lot of teams. I think this next season, when we jump into it, is going to be a very different group of people because of how much people have learned this season. And I hope that these videos have helped facilitate that. Not as though I'm taking credit by any means for it, but I just hope that this is an opportunity for people to learn and ask questions and also like think about what other stuff they can do to improve. So hopefully this video does that too for anyone watching. But alright, well, I guess this is it for this week. So next week we'll talk about the two semifinal matches, Fakemon United versus the Minnesota Mucks, and the Kentucky Krookodiles versus the Charmillionaires. So I guess next week we will cover that stuff, and until then, I will see you all later.
See you guys.
Thanks for watching, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, go ahead and leave a like, and if you want, subscribe for more videos. Hope to see y'all in the future, and thank you for watching.